Dr. Kennedy in the house, people. So let's go back to the basics. Anxiety 101.
All anxiety is separation anxiety.
What does that mean?
The reason why you're anxious in the first place is because you block love. So when you say I love you...
Whoa. The reason why you're anxious is because you block love?
For yourself, yes.
What? I just had a huge breakthrough here. Holy shit, Russ. Hey, it's Mel, and welcome to the Mel Robbins podcast. Okay, so today's episode is freaking fire. And speaking of fire, I got to throw some amazing celebratory fire in your direction. I got to say thank you. Thank you so much for listening, for sharing these episodes, for being as excited as I am about this thing. I started this because I just wanted to connect with you on a deeper level. And I wanted to be able for us to inspire and empower each other to create better lives. And baby, we are doing it. I also want to say thank you for being a force for good. I love the fact that you're already pouring in topic and guest suggestions. Please keep them coming because we are going to create this thing together. We are looking at the DMs. We're looking at the stuff that you're leaving on the forums on the website. This is something we are building together, and it is just incredible. So thank you. Okay, so today's episode, hello, game changer. This is fire, people. So what are we talking about? Anxiety. Yep. We got to talk about anxiety. My mission with this episode of the Mel Robbins podcast is to profoundly, fundamentally change the way you think about and approach anxiety. By the end of this episode, you will be empowered to do way more than just survive your anxiety or try to cope with it. Okay? In just a few minutes, you are going to meet an incredible expert on the topic. His name is Dr. Russ Kennedy. He's a medical doctor. He has a degree in neuroscience. And in my opinion, he has written the book on anxiety. And so he's going to come on and we're going to talk all about the topic. We're going to change the way that you think about it, that you approach it. And more importantly, Dr. Kennedy says you can heal your anxiety once and for all. Yeah, sure, you're going to have moments where anxiety rise up and, you're going to have stressful situations. But in terms of the ongoing overwhelm, nervousness, on-edge feeling, he's going to teach you how to heal that. His work is life-changing, and it has made a huge difference in my life, and I cannot wait for you to meet him in a few minutes. Now, the interesting thing about anxiety is that I am considered one of the world's leading experts on anxiety. And I'm what you call a life-tested expert because my expertise has been earned the hard way, the painful way. And that is by living through and struggling with anxiety for almost 45 years. The truth is, when I really think about my past, I don't ever remember a time when I wasn't nervous or feeling on edge or anxious or somewhere other than the room that I was currently standing in. I think if you can come out of the womb as a baby having a panic attack, that was Mel Robbins. And that panic that I was, I think, hardwired with in my nervous system, it only grew as I got older. In fact, you know how you go to those little camps when you're little, like with the Y, or, maybe you go to Girl Scout camp. I was so homesick at every single camp my parents tried to send me to, I would be sent home. In fact, there is this really infamous story about me in sixth grade. So in sixth grade at North Muskegon Elementary School, there's this huge crescendo at the end of the year. And the entire sixth grade takes over the Boy Scout and Girl Scout camp that's like 10 miles away. And everybody goes to camp for 5 days and 4 nights. And it is supposed to be the most amazing thing that happens during elementary school. Everybody talks about going to sixth grade camp. Here's the thing about Mel. I was so riddled with anxiety and panic while I was there that I called my parents every single day and begged for them to come and get me. I was so out of control that the counselors actually acquiesced and said I could go home. Now, I want you to stop and think about that. Do you know how anxious you have to be to get trained counselors to basically go, this kid is out of control. we can't handle this. We got to get her out of here. Get her parents to come pick her up. Like, I can't deal with this. And so I got what my anxiety wanted. I got to leave. And as I was packing up my cabin, my friends came in. They're like, where are you going, Mel? Tonight's the big scavenger hunt. It's the last night. Why are you leaving? I lied to them and said, oh, my grandmother's had a heart attack. So my parents are coming. We got to go. We got to go see her. Yep. That was 6th grade Mel, full of anxiety. And it only got worse as I got older. In fact, before every track meet or tennis match that I had to play as a varsity athlete, I had such a nervous stomach. That was the term that was used back in the early 80s. She has a nervous stomach. Well, you know how I dealt with my nervous stomach? I would stand behind like a bush next to the tennis courts. And I would have this blue bottle packed in my backpack. It was a blue bottle of Melanta. This is an antacid medicine that old people drink for reflux. I would chug that stuff. It got so bad that my parents would start buying that stuff by the case. It was disgusting and chalky, but I chugged it anyway. Honestly, I can't believe I'm admitting this to you right now. And here's the thing, it only got worse. I mean, little elementary school anxiety Mel turned into high school anxiety Mel. And then, of course, I was college train wreck anxiety Mel. I don't even want to admit half the things I did in college when I was anxious, like jumping from one relationship to another, or waking up every single morning with anxiety full of regrets about the night before. You know, when I stop and think about, oh my God, I feel like I need Melanta right now. My stomach is starting to be like, rah. And I laugh about it, but honestly, at the time, it's sad. Like, I just didn't enjoy college. I don't even like to go to college reunions because I did not like the person that I was back then, as my anxiety was just raging out of control. Well, when I got to law school, thankfully, the anxiety got so unbearable that I got medical help, and I was finally diagnosed with anxiety. And this would have been in the early 90s. And so anxiety was not a word that people threw around casually back then. I mean, anxiety meant there was something terribly wrong with you. People didn't talk about it. If you went to therapy, you were a freak. And so thankfully for me, though, this diagnosis, it was a godsend, because I finally had a word and a doctor validating what I had been struggling with for my entire life for 20 years. He prescribed Zoloft. It was a complete game changer for me. It's almost like that medication acted like a ladder. You see, the anxiety and all the mental spiraling that it caused, that spiraling put me in a very deep hole mentally, physically, and spiritually. And that Zoloft was like a little ladder that allowed me rung by rung to start to climb out of that hole and do the work that you need to do to start to take control of your life. So I took Zoloft for 20 years. In fact, the only time I didn't take Zoloft was when our first daughter, Sawyer, she's now 23 years old. So when she was born, I had been off Zoloft. I had to taper off of it because we didn't know if you could like breastfeed or whatever on that medication. They know now it's safe to breastfeed with it. But when she was born, I had such severe postpartum depression, the really scary kind, where you couldn't be left alone because the doctors were afraid you were going to hurt yourself or you were going to hurt your baby. It was a terrifying 8-week experience in my life. And so I'm telling you, between the 45 years of dealing with my own anxiety and on top of it, Chris and I having kids that have had anxiety that at times were so severe that they slept on the floor of our bedroom, I just always thought, okay, I have anxiety. That's the way that it is. It's just the way that I'm wired. I hate it. I hate having anxiety, but I just have to learn to live with it. I was wrong. You do not have to hate anxiety, and you do not have to just learn to live with it. You can learn how to understand it, and you can learn simple things that will help you take control of it and change how you respond to moments of uncertainty and moments of stress. And so in my early 40s, the anxiety got so crippling again because there were a lot of things going on in our life that were triggering it, that every single morning the alarm would go off and I would lay in bed for an hour, and I would just stare at the ceiling. And the anxiety, it's almost like it felt like a gravity blanket pinning me to that bed. And as I would lay in that bed and think about all my problems, time would tick by. The kids would miss the bus. I became a person I didn't even recognize. But I want to just tell you that I know what it's like when anxiety is ruining or running your life. Because when anxiety was at its worst for me, I created this thing called the 5-second rule. And it was out of sheer desperation and fear that I created this thing. What is it? It's a brain hack. And if you ever feel overwhelmed by anxious thoughts or anxious feelings, just count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you can interrupt those thoughts and feelings and then physically move. And ever since I invented this thing, I've been teaching the 5-second rule on stages around the world, and it has changed the lives of millions of people. Now, here's one of the things I want to distinguish before we bring Dr. Kennedy on in just a second. A lot of the tools that I am known for and that I teach and the things that I've been researching that help with anxiety, that help with mindset, that help with mental health, I call these tools a neck up approach because they attack your mindset. They focus on your thoughts. They help you change the patterns of thought in your mind and the default thinking and the self-criticism and the worry and the procrastination and the perfectionism that can take hold. On today's episode, though, we're going to go in a different direction. We're going to talk about a whole body of tools that you need that I would classify as a neck down approach to anxiety. We are going to focus on the body. We're going to focus on your nervous system. We're going to focus on thinking about anxiety as something happening in your body first. Because the fact is that if you only attack from the neck up with talk therapy or using my tools, yeah, it's going to help. Yes, they are an essential part of the toolkit that you need for coping. And yes, it will make a huge difference. But what Dr. Kennedy is going to explain to you today is game changer because he's going to teach you that you can actually heal your anxiety, but you have to attack it from the neck down. You have to stop running away from the anxiety and address what's going on in your body. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. And we're also going to talk about how the heck do you do this? This is going to be packed with takeaways because I'm going to just make sure that it is. So Dr. Kennedy, he is the best-selling author of the book, Anxiety RX. His work is changing the lives of people around the world. He is helping people heal their anxiety in his clinical practice. And you're going to want to bookmark this episode because you're going to learn so many takeaways that you're going to absolutely want to come back to this again and again. And you definitely are going to want to share this with your friends and family. In fact, you'll be trying his tools as you listen to this episode. He has a degree in neuroscience, he's a medical doctor, and perhaps most importantly, like me, and maybe you, he struggled with anxiety for decades. But using what you're about to learn in this episode, he has cured himself. So let's get him on the line. Hey!
Hey, Mel Robbins, my God.
How are you?
Good, good.
Awesome. Is this thing going, guys? We're good with the recording? Okay, awesome. I am so excited. My favorite episodes are ones where I feel like I'm getting a personal therapy session that the world can listen on. So...
Okay. I mean, how deep do you want to go?
Well, I have a feeling that we are going to have you back over and over and over again.
Okay.
And so I want to focus our conversation today on just kind of some anxiety 101. Because one of the things that I was so excited to be able to talk to you about is the difference between a neck up thinking approach to anxiety versus a neck down body approach to anxiety. And I want to focus our conversation on truly getting people to have a wake-up call about the way that they think about what anxiety is and isn't, about what's going on in your body when you have anxiety, and almost like getting somebody to go, holy shit, Like I got to completely upend how I've been thinking and attacking this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I'm good at.
I know you are. So I've been following you for a while, and every time you post something, I go, "Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes, 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 yes." And so, first of all, thank you, thank you, thank you, Dr. Kennedy. I know you prefer to be called Russ, but I just got to say, dude, you're an MD and you have a degree in neuroscience, and like me, you struggled with anxiety for 30 years. And so I could not be more excited to basically get a personal therapy session with you.
Sure. Happy to do it.
Okay.
Happy to do it, Mel.
So the first thing that I would love to ask you is when a patient comes to you, and how do you describe what anxiety is?
Well, usually they come to me with anxiety already. So, I'll go into, what are you feeling? What's going on? What happens to you? And usually, almost universally, they'll describe a thinking process. My husband's driving me nuts. I can't drive. I can't go past this. I can't go into grocery stores. I can't go on the bus. And usually what I'll say is, that's all in your head. Like that's all the story that your left hemisphere, your analytical left hemisphere is making up. Now, what do you feel in your body, in your physiology when you say you feel anxiety? And when almost the first thing I can get people to do is say, I'm going to change the word anxiety to alarm because words have consciousness to them. Anxiety doesn't have a lot of consciousness to it. A lot of people don't even understand what anxiety
Well,
is.
I agree. And I feel like it's thrown around all the time.
Yeah.
And we think that anxiety is like a nervous stomach and a lot of worry in your head about what's going to happen. And I love that you're saying that we want to start talking about the alarm that goes off in your body. And before we even talk about what that means, one other thing that I would love for you to address is what are ways in which anxiety expresses itself? And I'm going to give you an example.
Sure.
So I'm your classic textbook type A, hypervigilant,
Sure.
always worried,
Yeah.
anxiety type. Panic attacks, shortness of breath. You can literally feel the alarm vibrating through my skin.
Mm-hmm.
But our daughter, who is 23, when she's feeling anxious or the alarm is going off in her body, she doesn't emit worry or tension. She emits frustration and anger.
Sure.
So, what are the various ways in which anxiety gets expressed in people? Because I think there's a lot of people that, quote, struggle with anxiety that don't realize that it's anxiety that they're struggling with.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens, what you're describing with Sawyer, is that her autonomic nervous system kind of goes into a sympathetic, fight or flight response, and for her, the only acceptable response inside of her is frustration or anger because that's how it gets expressed. Now, other people will shut down; they'll go into freeze, right? So sympathetic nervous system is fight, flight, and freeze, and fawn too, but freeze mostly in that particular situation. So some people will go into this like withdrawal, they'll stop moving, their eye contact disappears, their body stops kind of moving in a fluid kind of way. And it's really people display anxiety or alarm, as I should say, using my own little terminology, in very different ways. And I think it's really becoming aware of it because I have many people that send me messages saying, I didn't even know I had anxiety until I read your book. It's like, well, I don't know if I'm doing you any favors there, but it really is, it really does manifest because when I was 20, I didn't know what anxiety was. I just knew that I had this impending doom, this sense of impending doom, and I didn't even know what it was. And I don't think a lot of people do.
I agree with you. So let's go back to the basics. Anxiety 101.
Okay.
When you say we're going to now talk about anxiety is an alarm system in your body, and describe the alarm system to me.
Okay. So there's a structure in our brains called the amygdala. And the amygdala is often called the fear center of the brain. It's an okay, description, but it's not the best. But basically the amygdala is involved in just about every fear reaction that we have. So the amygdala will recognize something in your external environment or your internal environment, aka worries, that alarms it. So the amygdala has a superhighway down to the brainstem, which controls your body. So your blood pressure increases, your heart rate increases, your respiration increases. Everything seems to go along with that. So we get this physiological change motivated mostly by the amygdala, but other factors in the brain as well. And that brings us into this state of alarm. And then what the left hemisphere does is it goes, we're alarmed. What do we have to be alarmed about? And then you start stacking. And I've heard you say this. I think it was in the 5 second rule about I got to get up. This is bad. That's bad. One of your boobs is bigger.
Yeah.
All this kind of stuff. That's what I call stacking. So as soon as your body feels this sense of alarm, your left hemisphere has to do something with it. So it has to make up worries and thoughts that are completely consistent with that painful sense of alarm in your system. So we start stacking up these worries, and of course that just creates more alarm, which creates more worries, which creates more alarm, and we get caught in this alarm anxiety cycle.
So let me see if I can unpack this, okay? Because I think this is a huge wake up call for people to learn this. That anxiety does not start typically with your thoughts.
Totally.
Anxiety starts with a physical response to some kind of situation that then triggers a physiological reaction in your body designed to agitate you and designed as an alarm to get you to suddenly pay attention, because your body is physically trying to get you to basically wake up from whatever you're doing and pay attention to some sort of threat or some sort of change or some sort of something. And the second thing that happens when that physical thing happens is then your mind goes, holy cow, what is around me right now that I need to pay attention to or be worried about? Am I getting this right? So it begins in the body as an alarm system, and then the thoughts climb on.
I think that's an explanation that's very simple and it's very accurate, I think, is that we have this thing that I describe in my book called background alarm, which is basically kind of old unresolved emotional issues that are stuck in your body. My colleague Gabor Mate talks about this too, emotions being stuck in the body, which is a construct. You can't separate the mind from the body, of course, but it's a construct, and it helps people. It really helps them understand that, hey, this is actually starting from my body. And because we're so versed at speaking in words and communicating to ourselves and to each other with words, we don't get into the feeling. So if I ask you, hey, Mel, what does it feel like when you bite into an apple? It's like, well, I don't know. I mean, so I say, what does it taste like? Well, it's sweet or it's sour, it's crunchy. It's like, we're so good at describing things in words. But how do you feel when you bite into that apple? That's a brand new landscape. Like, we're not used to feeling. We're in a society that worships the mind and very, very rarely actually says, hey, get into your body, feel your body. And a lot of us don't want to feel our body because that's where the frickin' pain is, right? So
That's
we
right.
retreat into our heads because it's an escape from this old alarm that's been trapped in your body probably since childhood.
So you say that all anxiety has the exact same beginning. This really surprised me that anxiety is all triggered by the same thing.
Yeah,
All anxiety comes from the singular source. What is that?
separation. All anxiety is separation anxiety.
What does that mean?
Well, if you drill it down, it's separation typically from yourself, but it starts with separation from your parents on some level. If you feel separate from your parents, the people that are supposed to love you, care, see you, hear you, and love you, if you feel separate from them, it creates this alarm in our system. And then when we get this alarm in our system, our brain has to do something about that. So what we tend to do as children is, first of all, blame ourselves. We can't blame our parents for what's going on in our childhood environment. So we blame ourselves, and then we start taking jabs at ourselves, what I call jabs, which is basically judgment, abandonment, blame, and shame. This is what we do to ourselves. This is the birth of the inner critic.
Can
So
you give me an example? So I find, and one of the things I want to do with this show is to take like a lot of the stuff that sounds intellectual
sure.
and make it really digestible and understandable. So when you say separate, you're separate from your parents. Can you give us a few scenarios that, aren't all horrific abuse
Sure.
situations
Sure.
that anybody can identify with when you say separate from your parents?
Yeah. There's something as simple as a parental mismatch. You
What does
know,
that mean?
well, it's kind of a term. I don't know if I heard it or I made it up, but it's basically I see most of my patients, clients, whatever you want to call them, are female, and a lot of them have issues with their mom. So they felt separate. They felt this mismatch from their mother. They felt like, we're not connected. I love my mother. She loves me, but, I like Bach and she likes, punk rock, and just in different parts of our lives, they're very different. And that parental mismatch, I think it might be a Nicole LePera term, actually. This parental mismatch causes a tremendous amount of alarm in a child's system because you want to belong to a parent. You really want to feel like you're connected to your parent. And if you don't have that internal sense of attachment, it's very alarming to our system. And that alarm gets lodged in our body. And then that's what usually mediates the worries as we get older. It also mediates that thing I call jabs, which is judgment, abandonment, blame, and shame. We do that to ourselves. So when we're listening to our own thing, it's like, okay, well, how am I judging myself here? You wake up in the morning, as you say in High Five Habit, you wake up in the morning with anxiety or alarm, as I like to call it. And then you start thinking, you start stacking all these negative scenarios on top of yourself to make sense of it. When really what you should do, and take this is out of your book, is I'm feeling anxious. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, into my body. Into my body. Find a place in my body, find a place in my breath, find a place that feels safe in my body. And some people don't feel safe in their body, and we do something with that first, but really breath. Everybody's pretty much safe in their breath. Go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, into my body, out of my head. Because what that does is it gives a sense of control. It takes energy away from those ruminating thoughts, and it puts it where it belongs, because maybe that alarm is your younger self that's asking for your attention. And as a medical doctor and neuroscientist, I kind of want to have a seizure sometimes when I talk about the ethereal nature of this. But really, from a practical sense, when you're anxious, find the alarm in your body
Okay,
because you
so
want
how
it.
do you do that? So let's
Okay.
so let's just take a scenario right now. Let's just
Okay.
say, and it could be anything. It
Sure.
could be that you are sitting in the pickup line at school and you see somebody that you have beef with, and you start to feel like this wave hit you
Sure.
because you don't want to talk to that person or that person makes you nervous.
Right.
Situation we can all relate to.
Totally.
In that moment, sitting in the front seat of your car and you feel the alarm go off, how do you locate the damn thing? Because it's everywhere at this point.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's everywhere. I mean, it feels like it's everywhere, I think. And as I was saying earlier, we're so used to communicating with ourselves in words, we don't really think to look at the alarm in our body, right? So what I would say is as you look at this person that kind of triggers you a little bit, you know, feel your butt in the car seat, relax your shoulders, relax your jaw. If you're not driving, like close your eyes for a second, just take a breath in and like a nice slow breath out and go, where in my physiology do I sense this? Imagine this person. It's like, okay, well, I feel this sort of, kind of ache in my upper chest. And it's, maybe it's the size of an apple or whatever. And it feels like it's a pressure. It feels like it's
Mm,
radiating up to my neck. That's your alarm. So put your hand over your alarm. Like in the high five habit, high five your heart. High five that part of your alarm because, or jumping right into it, I believe that that is your younger self asking for your attention. And typically what we do is we push it away. We go into our heads, right? So
right.
go into your body, feel it. See if you can put your hand over that
But
area of
what
alarm.
if I don't want to? What if I'm literally like, I don't like this feeling? So,
Yep.
I'm sitting here listening to you,
Yep.
and I really love your work because you are trying to get us all to go to the source of what's triggering mental health issues, which is stored
Alarm.
experiences
Yeah.
and the alarm in your body and your inability to tolerate or understand what's happening when it goes off. And so I have recently had this experience where I'm waking up and I get these waves of anxiety. And what's interesting is that this is not new for me. I mean, I've struggled with anxiety for 30 years, but we have just recently had a number of huge changes in our life. And I now live in a different state in a very small town. And when I wake up in the morning in the middle of all this change, my alarm is not on the nightstand next to me. It begins in my ankles, and it's like a hot lava wave that goes from my ankles, up my legs, all the way up my stomach, and then it solidifies in my chest. And as soon as I feel this wave, my immediate thought is not, oh, I want to feel the alarm. It's, fuck, why am I feeling this? I don't want to feel dread. And then I feel like I just want to hide from it or like try to fall asleep. And I know that it's just my body reacting to all this change. Like it's some sort of stored experience that is coming up. And I've been working so hard on not freaking out when I feel it,
Right.
but turning toward it. And as a medical doctor and a neuroscientist and somebody who has struggled with anxiety for 30 years, why is turning toward this alarm the answer in that moment? Like, what would happen? Like, tell me what happens when you turn toward it and you put your hands on your chest, or you go, oh, thank you. You're just trying to protect me because you're scared to death that you now live in Vermont and you have no friends and you're very far away from your kids and you're going to live alone here on this mountain and be even more lonely. Like, I get through this whole like catastrophizing, which only make it worse, versus welcome this bullshit in. Like, I don't want to. Like, I just don't want it to be there, Russ.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. What if it's not bullshit though, Mel? What if it's little Mel? Did you have a nickname when you were a little girl?
This really is becoming therapy, isn't it?
Well, I'd give it a try.
Yeah, when you started talking about the mismatch with the mom, I'm like, I hope my mother doesn't listen to this episode because I even feel guilty for admitting that we are kind of a mismatch or are a mismatch. Yeah, well, my sometimes my mom calls me Melly, and friends of mine call me Melly, and yeah, friends of mine called me Melly.
Is there a name that you relate to as a child? A nickname that you relate to?
You know, in many ways, I think Mel, because I still feel very much like a child at times, and I still feel like that vulnerable kid, and I still feel like the person that's on the outside looking in. I feel separate. Like that word separate makes a lot of sense for me. Like there's a feeling that I have in life that I'm observing what's happening, but I'm not a part of it.
Yeah, and just because you've kind of given me permission here, I mean, you've spent a lot of your life outrunning your anxiety, right? And it's worked for you, Mel. You're very successful. It's worked for you. I see this with a lot of very intelligent people. They can intellectually kind of outrun their anxiety.
What does that even mean?
It means that you keep yourself so busy that you don't get a chance to sit with that alarm in your body.
I don't want to sit with it. That's why.
Exactly.
Why do you think moving to Vermont where there's nothing to do is so fucking terrifying? Like I can't run to Target to make my anxiety go away.
Right.
Like I feel like I'm addicted to negative stress. And this addiction to negative stress is what I've done to numb my anxiety.
Well, it's sublimating it.
What is that is a big word. What does sublimating mean?
Sure. Sorry. You've taken this energy and you found a way to make it work for you.
So I've taken the negative alarm or the alarm in my body and I've channeled it in a direction so I don't have to feel it.
Yes. And
when you said, what if the alarm is trying to help you?
Yeah.
What the hell did you mean by that?
What if it's little Mel? What if it's the younger version of you saying, "Hey, I need some attention." And then when you say, "Fuck off, I don't want to feel you." Literally, what if you had a child come up to you in a grocery store and they were crying and they had their hands up in the air to pick them up? Would you push them away? Would you go, "See ya, fuck off"? No, you wouldn't. You'd pick that damn child up. But we won't do it for ourselves.
God, that's so true.
Yeah, we won't do it for ourselves. We'll do it for our pets. Yeah,
you're right. You're absolutely right. Like if somebody else had an alarm going off in their body.
Yep.
and they were like freaking out or worried or sad or upset or needing attention or reassurance, you would give that to them. But we,
Without hesitation. I'm sure with Sawyer and Oakley, you do that all the time.
all the time.
Yeah, but you don't do it for yourself.
No. And I think that this is the singular biggest like mistake that society has made around understanding anxiety. I just had a huge breakthrough here. Holy
Good,
shit, Russ.
good.
Okay, so let me
Speak
just see
directly,
if I
as you
can
said.
give this back to everybody listening.
Sure.
So it's the fact that you're scared of the alarm or you can't tolerate it and you don't understand what it's trying to ask of you that makes it worse.
Yes.
And if you were to realize that any tension or fear or kind of scary feeling in your body is an alarm system that
From your
is
child
from your inner child
or young.
asking you for reassurance or love or attention, and you just gave yourself that reassurance or love or attention, the alarm would turn off. Is that what you're saying?
Slowly, yeah, because it's been an adaptation for you too. You got to remember that the ego thinks it's protecting you by firing.
I don't understand what the ego is. That's too
Oh,
intellectual for me.
you're gonna have to have me
So
back.
I
That's
will
a
have you back to talk about the ego. But the second anybody says ego, I'm like, oh, this is somebody who's way smarter than me. I don't want to try to figure out what the hell an ego is. Like, and we will have you back because we all need to know what the ego is. However,
sure.
I just want to stay on this because I think this is a groundbreaking idea that I want everybody who either has some level of situational or generalized anxiety or loves somebody who has situational or generalized anxiety. And at this moment in time, that would be every human being on the planet. And I want you to understand that we have been taught that we're supposed to attack it from the neck up with the thinking first. And that's one of the things you need to do to cope. But the real heart of healing your anxiety, which you claim you've done, and I want to hear about that.
Yeah.
But that and I don't mean to use the word claim like I don't believe you.
I claim that I have gotten so much better, but yeah. My
Well,
God,
you're a
thank you
medical
for that
doctor, so you can
cure.
say that. I feel like I understand anxiety. I still hate it. And I need to have a different relationship with it.
You
And
do.
I need to, and everybody needs,
Yeah.
for the sake of your kids, the people that you love, for yourself, you need to understand this alarm system in your body and the fact that it desperately needs you. And you need to take a neck down approach to listening to the alarm and diffusing it in a way that, wow. So over time, if you do this, the alarm doesn't go off as much.
No, yeah, that's true. It's not as intense, and you're not compulsively running up into your head when you feel the alarm. So if I had a motorcycle in my front yard, I used to work emerge as a doc, and it's like I don't, I
You
don't
still, does
condone.
emerge mean emergency?
Oh, emergency, yeah,
Okay,
the
so you used to
emergency
work
department.
in the emergency room as a
Yep.
doctor.
I delivered babies. I did kind of the whole kind of general thing.
Okay.
Now, if I had a motorcycle in my front yard, that's why I bring up motorcycles, is because I used to see bad accidents with motorcycles. I don't condone motorcycles. I think they're fun, but they're dangerous. Anyway, sidetrack. So if I had a motorcycle in my front, I've never ridden one before. So if I had a motorcycle in my front driveway and I had 50 books on how to drive a motorcycle, ride a motorcycle, and then I go out to the motorcycle, I sit on it and I go, no, you know what? I got to go back and I got to read a little more about how the brakes work. And then until you get on that frickin' motorcycle and ride it around and maybe fall off a few times, which is the same thing with the emotion. As soon as you get on the alarm, you start actually feeling better. Like when you said about that thing about the person in the school drop off, as
Mm-hmm.
soon as you put your hand over that place of alarm, you will feel instantly better. I'm not saying it's going to, take it from a 9 to a 2, but it's going to take it from a 9 to a 4 because you're actually, from a consciousness perspective, you are actually going at the root source of the problem, which is this little child in you that says, I don't like this person. And it's not this person. It's basically, I don't like someone from my past that this person reminds me of. That's
Or I don't like the feeling that I have in my body when I see this person, and
Yeah.
this is a familiar feeling from my past.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for
And the alarm
example, if you had like a chaotic parent or an unpredictable parent or a mentally ill parent or an absent parent, this goes back to your original point.
Yeah.
When you have a parent that you can't either connect with, or that is unpredictable, or that makes you feel invisible or not safe, that alarm system in your body develops as a child. And that is what you're saying when you say all anxiety has resulted because of separation anxiety as a child. When you feel separate or unsafe or unseen or not heard or not loved or invisible in your home, that original experience that you probably don't remember,
Yeah.
that encoded your body when you were tiny.
Yeah.
And anytime then from that point forward, anytime you again felt invisible or you felt attacked or you felt unloved, that alarm got even stronger. And so now it's like this automatic response in your body to those situations where you feel separate. Am I getting this?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and what happens is when we feel the alarm, we go up into our heads to escape it because we feel this alarm in our body. It's like, I don't want to feel this. So we go up into our heads and we try and think, well, what could this be? We analyze, we go into this, we have this like just fixation, this left hemisphere fixation on figuring stuff out, which basically just creates more of a problem. I talk about in my book about, Ulysses and the Siren Island, so Ulysses is
Again, you're way smarter than me, so you got to tell me the story.
okay. So it's
Is this
basically
like a
this.
Greek myth class that I
Yeah,
skipped in college? Okay.
yeah. It's that English stuff. I'd much rather write a physics exam than an English exam. But anyway, so it's basically Siren Island. So there's these beautiful women on this island, and what the sailors will do when they hear these beautiful women singing is they'll run their ships aground, and then they'll try and swim to these sirens, and the sirens turn into monsters and kill them, hack them apart, whatever they want to do. So it basically, that's your thoughts. Your thoughts are like Siren Island. Your thoughts are trying to suck you into going, hey, we have the answer, we have the answer, when all they have is more problem. You're not going to solve anxiety, which is basically a problem of overthinking, with more freaking thinking. It's just not going to work.
Well,
So,
okay, so can I ask you a question? Why the hell, if there is an alarm system wired in our body,
yeah.
why is our brain not able to go, it's just an alarm system? Just give yourself a hug and take a deep breath. Thank it for trying to protect you. Next. Why do we not just automatically say that? Why do we kill ourselves in our own minds with our thoughts?
Because we don't understand it's there in the first place. We don't
The
understand.
alarm?
Yeah. We don't understand that it's our younger self asking for our attention. So we feel pain, and like any organism, we withdraw from pain. And it's like that the motorcycle that is on the front. If I don't get on that motorcycle and ride it around, maybe fall off a couple of times, I'm never really going to learn how to acclimatize to that emotion, that alarm. Bessel van der Kolk talks about that in The Body Keeps the Score. We're not teaching people how to get rid of their anxiety. We're teaching them how to acclimatize to it. And then I add on to that and stop adding thoughts to it. Because as soon as you add thoughts to the alarm, A, you're getting out of the problem, and B, you're just making it worse.
You
So
know,
yeah.
go ahead, please.
So basically, we get in this thing what I call the alarm anxiety cycle. So something triggers us. Say we're in that lineup. We see this person that we don't like, and then we go, oh, why don't I like this person? I should really try and make an effort. I should really. And it's like, well, no, she did this or he did
I'm
that.
like, don't make eye contact. Get on
Yeah.
the phone. Make a fake phone call. Avoid. Turn shoulder. Holy
Look
shit.
away.
Are they closer? Like, I'm like, what?
Run away! Run
Yes.
away! To quote a Monty Python thing. So basically, what we're doing is we're trying to intellectualize the alarm that we're feeling in our body, and it's not the solution isn't in our minds. The solution's in our body, which is why so many people have a hard time healing from anxiety, because we're trying to use more thoughts to combat overthinking.
My big takeaway right now so far is that all the thinking that we reflexively do about the feelings in our body
Right.
makes the alarm louder.
Well,
And that we have to learn to stop going above the neck and thinking about what's going on. And we need to train ourselves to go below the neck into our bodies and turn toward the alarm and give ourselves the reassurance and the soothing or whatever it is that the alarm is asking for in that moment.
Yeah.
And that if you do that, you are now taking step one on the path of truly, what would you call
Getting
it?
at the root cause.
Dealing, calming, curing your anxiety.
Getting at the root cause.
Getting at the root cause.
That's exactly what it is. You're getting at the root cause, which is the alarm. The thoughts are not the cause. The thoughts are a symptom. So the thoughts are just a byproduct of this alarm that's stuck in your body. Now, thoughts do cause, anxiety. There's no two ways about that. But I think where the mismanage is, where the mistake is that we believe the thoughts originate before the feeling. And I'm saying the feeling starts before the thought.
The feeling starts before the thought. Because every one of us knows a kid that can work themselves up into a panic attack because they think they're going to throw up.
Sure.
And what I now realize after years of having kids with anxiety and reading so many books about this subject that I should have a PhD, and being in years of therapy myself, is that if like, let's take my son. So our son Oakley, when he was little, he was constantly picked on at school. So of course he felt nervous in the morning before he had to head into school.
Sure.
Plus the kid had dyslexia and ADHD, all of which was not diagnosed. So he's heading into a full day in a classroom where he physiologically, neurologically is incapable of doing what is going to be asked of him. And so his body, before entering that situation, sounds an alarm.
Totally.
And when the alarm sounds and the physiological changes happen, guess what physiological feeling he has? His stomach starts to rumble because as the physiology of the alarm changes and the chemistry in his digestive tract changes, he starts getting butterflies that feel like pterodactyls. And then all of a sudden, instead of just giving himself a hug and going, it's going to be okay. Today's going to be an okay day. I can face this. Instead of reassuring himself, he goes into his head and says, oh my God, my stomach, I think I'm going to puke. I can't go to school. Holy, and he ramps himself. We were dealing with panic attacks with this kid where he would literally bang his head on the kitchen island. I don't want to go to school, crying. He would force himself to throw. He would get so worked up, he would actually throw up. I mean, it was horrible. And I now can see that all of the interventions that were being done with this kid with therapists, which were all about just change the channel upstairs. Right. And then he would turn to them and say, but sometimes when I change the channel, it takes me to a channel I don't want to watch. So what if I change the channel of my thoughts and I get another bad thought? Like even he was reacting against it, but nobody taught us that what the kid needed was a hug, validation, reassurance in that moment physically to get the alarm to quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, you nailed it. So, I think that's part of it is that, especially with kids, especially with children, it's so important that they feel you, that they feel seen, heard, and loved. Touch is such a valuable thing with kids. It's just so amazing. My wife, Cynthia, is a somatic trauma therapist. She deals mostly with people that have pre-verbal trauma before the age of 7 years old. So they don't have a story about it, right?
Wow. How do they know they have trauma before the age of 7?
Because they feel it in their body. Because they feel alarmed every day and they don't know why. Because they haven't encoded it to a point where they can... See, the amygdala never forgets. The amygdala encodes everything. Birth trauma, everything. It encodes everything. But we don't have the retrieval mechanism to pull it back up. So we think we have no childhood memories, which is a bit of a semantic thing because we do have childhood memories. We just can't retrieve them. That's the problem. And there's a whole reason for that I put on Instagram about how the hippocampus gets paralyzed. But I don't want to get too much into that. But basically, with Oakley, like it's getting him into his body, into a safe place. So you practice with him, putting this is what I do with, I know he's older now, but this is what I do with parents is I get, put your hand on your child's heart, then put your other hand on their back about the same level as your front hand, and just sit there with them and just allow their nervous system to regulate and just allow them to feel it and create this safe place in your body. Because this is the next place I'd like to go with this little interview that we're doing.
Yeah.
Is finding us, like people say, oh, I don't want to go to my body. It's like, I understand that. So how can we do that? Well, we find a place in our body that's either safe. With me, it's my breath around my nose because I used to do a lot of meditation. And then what we do is we feel the alarm, and then we go into this safe place, and then we go back into the alarm.
Okay, so hold on. Let's walk through this. So you just reached up, and for those of you listening, we put uncut episodes of our podcast in long form up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Mel Robbins. You'll be able to watch him do this. But he just put his hands kind of right, kind of like if you wore a pair of glasses, you'd put your hands kind of under where your glasses are along your cheeks. And so when you said the way that you could practice this, so here's a takeaway for how you could practice this. You just got what I would call the love sandwich, hands on the heart, hands on the back,
Sure.
and just hold somebody
Yeah.
when they are having an alarm go off in their body until you can feel them slowly start to have the alarm turn off, and the clinical word being their nervous system starts to regulate again. They're in their body, they're in their safe space. But you also talked about this second tool where you locate a safe place in your body. And for you, it was sort of right here alongside your nose. I was trying to think of another one other than the heart. Like there have been times where I've like kind of tucked my hands under my armpits. It's almost like a mini hug.
Yeah.
Almost like, I don't know what it is, that like, I suppose that it's, or like I could put my arms, I could give myself a hug kind of thing. But so you could pick anywhere in your body, your stomach, for some people, like deep breathing. What are some other places that patients of yours have selected in the past to give people
It's
an
all
idea?
over. It's all, but basically I get them, where's a safe place in your body? And a lot of them will say, I don't feel safe. And I'll say, well, where's a neutral place? It's like, well, my right knee feels like there's no feeling in my right knee. It's like, okay, let's go into this pain of your heart, from this recent breakup that you've gone through. Now let's go and just bring our attention into that right knee. And then go back into this. I'm doing this quite a bit faster than I normally.
But when you say bring your attention to your right knee,
yeah.
if I'm doing this exercise with you, does that mean that I've got kind of my eyes closed and I'm mentally working my way down to my knee? So you're mentally kind of locating your attention at your knee. Okay, got it.
Yeah, because that feels either safe or neutral, right?
Yep.
So what we're doing is we're basically training your unconscious mind that this pain that you're feeling in your heart is not all of you. Because what'll happen is the amygdala has no sense of time. So when you get triggered, you will go back, you will turn into that 11-year-old. And then basically what we need to do is train your amygdala like, no, I'm not back there. I'm not 11 years old anymore. I'm actually my age that I am now. You go into that, right knee that's neutral. Or if there's, for me, I go into the sinuses, right? So when I get alarm, I wake up with alarm every day, right? But I don't give it that much credibility anymore. And then I go into this place in my sinuses.
Do you actually touch it or do you just feel it?
I touch it. Yeah, I touch it. And I can do it a little bit now. I might get a little zony when I do this, but basically, and what I do is I can locate the alarm in my solar plexus. I talk about this in the book.
Where are the solar plexus?
Oh, it's right where your ribs meet, right where the bottom part of the sternum.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So that's where I have my alarm from growing up with my schizophrenic dad. So I will go into that alarm. I will try and intentionally give it love and attention. And then I will go up into my sinus area that feels safe. And then I will go back into that place that feels uncomfortable. So the thing is, there's a theory that says when you experience a trauma as a child, part of you stays locked at that age for the rest of your life. Part of you, right? So what I'm
At
trying to
times
do,
I feel like all of me.
yeah, and it can be very overwhelming because it's unconscious, Mel. Like it's not something that we consciously feel. We actually get transported through the amygdala to that time. And through the insula is kind of like the place in our brain that kind of translate the body into the mind and the mind into the body. It's kind of like the way station. So I believe that we actually create this body memory, and I think the insula has something to do with this. And then we feel exactly the same way in our bodies now as we did when the trauma was occurring, which of course brings up all sorts of old memories, all sorts of old panic, and then we want to make sense
Fears,
of that.
stories, all of it. You're right.
So it
I
comes,
want to I want to take another scenario.
sure.
So I have a really good friend that is in the middle of a massive, like kind of venture capital pitch.
Okay.
And she is doing presentation after presentation to raise a ton of capital for this, super cool thing she's launching. And she is a ball of knots. She has the alarm going off all the time. The stakes feel high. And I realize part of creative energy, part of being successful, part of the kind of motivation that can drive somebody during a very successful time and the adrenaline that shoots through you, that's part of what happens when things are high stakes. How do these tools help you be more successful in those moments where you're at bat and this is a big game you're playing, and that kind of adrenaline rush and alarm in your body is going off all the time? How do you use these tools in those moments?
Well, you practice them first. There's a little thing that I talk to people about all the time. If I said, hey, Mel Robbins, December the 1st, I'm going to take you to the basketball court and I'm going to give you 10 foul shots. And if you make 3 of them, I'm going to give you $5 million. Now, would you start practicing foul shots the day before?
No.
No, you'd start shooting foul shots every day, right? So that's what I mean. It's like, okay, so what I would do with her, the short version is I'd probably find her alarm and work on that first. But what I would do with her is I would say, okay, where is this alarm in your body? I'd find it. Can you put your hand over it? Can you breathe into it? Can you do this? Can you practice this a number of times a day so that when you need it, when you're going into that boardroom, you can do a 2-minute thing in the bathroom where you put your hand over your alarm, you breathe into it, you regulate your body, you relax your shoulders, you relax your jaw, close your eyes, you go into this place that you've practiced a number of times, and then you can come back out in a regulated state.
Now, from a scientific standpoint,
Yep.
from what's going on in your mind, why does this matter?
Well, because you want to be able to train yourself to regulate your own nervous system is basically what it comes down to. And people with anxiety didn't have a parent that regulated their own nervous system, so they have to do it themselves. And nobody's coming to save you. Like, I think I see that with people all the time. No one's coming to save you. Like, you have to do this for yourself. And therapists can help, doctors can help, whatever. But unless you do it for yourself, it's not coming from a place that's really going to dissipate that alarm. And I see this with a lot of people. It's like they have this I think we have this unconscious belief when we have parents that didn't quite meet our needs, that eventually that parent's going to come back.
I keep waiting.
Going to look after us, right? So we don't do it for ourselves. We don't do self-care for ourselves because we assume that parent is going to come back. This isn't conscious. This is all unconscious. We assume that parent's going to come back and take care of us. So why do we have to do it? And I'm sure that's what we said to ourselves at the time. Why do I have to do this? And that's a lot of it, is that you've got to start taking responsibility for your own body, your own alarm, and realize that it's up to you. It's that child in you that wants you back. It wants to connect with you. And if you are pushing it away all the time, that child is either going to shut down and you're going to go into depression, or it's going to go into this fight-flight mode where you're always anxious. And with you, Mel, bringing it back to you, is that this is how you would outrun the anxiety, and every success that you would have would kind of put a little anesthetic on that anxiety.
Well, part of the reason too is that you get a lot of positive attention when you're achieving. And I started marrying achievement with worthiness and being safe and being connected. And so when I would be still, there was achievement means that your worth is attached to something outside of you.
Totally.
And whenever I wasn't doing something or going after something or being really busy, I didn't feel worthy. The alarms were going off. one of the other things, I've got a couple like rapid fire things that I
Yeah,
want to
sure.
get in here because I'm addicted to your Instagram account.
Okay.
And you can follow Russ at the Anxiety MD. But one of the couple things that I want to ask you about. Number one, what is the difference between coping with your anxiety and healing it?
Okay. So coping with your anxiety is mostly a top-down thinking process. You learn thinking strategies that help you deal with it. This anxiety isn't real. I'm over exaggerating, whatever that is. Healing it is going back to that child that's in you, that alarm child in you, and giving them the ability to be seen, heard, and loved by you, by adult you. Now, child you is going to resist that because child you has been ignored by adult you for a very long time. So it takes a while before you start building that bridge back together again. So that's how you heal. You heal by finding that child in you. With you, it's the 11-year-old, that with that sleepover. It's like going back to her, talking to her, sitting beside her and saying, look, that must have been really hard for you. It must have been awful for you. And then see what she says. She may not talk back to you for a month or 2 months or 6 months, but eventually she will. And then when you develop that bridge, that conduit to her, that's when you heal. And you're not just sort of, and the analogy that I draw is that you're in a rowboat, there's a hole in the rowboat, and it's filling up with water. Now you can do cognitive therapies, and I have nothing against cognitive therapies. I think they're helpful, but it's basically like bailing water out of that boat, right? So what you really need to do is go underneath, patch the hole in the hull, which I believe is the old alarm, which is the old wounded version of you as a child. Find that child, show them that they are seen, heard, and loved by you. High five them in the mirror, whatever you need to do. Like, find that child and heal them. And then you heal at the root cause of it. You're not just bailing water by trying to change your thoughts. You're actually getting to the root cause of what's causing your anxiety, which is really a state of alarm.
Yeah, and the inability to understand it or to tolerate it or soothe it. You
Yeah.
also had this post that I was like, oh, that's interesting, where you said that you rarely see anyone with chronic anxiety who is not addicted to something,
Yes.
and that there is a tight connection between anxiety and addictive behavior. Can you explain that and help us
Sure.
understand that?
Sure. So I'm going to mention the E word here, and I hope you don't shut off. But
Ego? I won't even understand it. Can you
well,
explain it
we'll
without
just
the ego? What's it?
your ego is kind of like an overprotective mother, right?
Okay.
Like it doesn't want you to go and play on the swings because you might fall off. It doesn't want you to talk in front of people because when you did that when you were in grade 6, people laughed at you and you
Is
never
the
went.
ego the same thing as the alarm?
It's related to it through the amygdala as
See,
well.
I'm already confused.
Yeah, I know. So I'm not going to get into too much neuroscience, but basically
Okay.
your ego is hooked into the amygdala and your amygdala says, we're never doing that again because that hurt us, whatever it was. And the amygdala never forgets. So it's basically getting into bypassing that ego because the ego is so overprotective that it will not let you go back into your old alarm
So
because
the
it
ego is thinking.
yeah, more or less. Yeah, it is something that it talks to us with thinking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, but let's talk about the connection between anxiety
Okay.
and addiction.
Okay. So basically, we need something to help us through this alarm.
Wait a
We,
minute. I think I just got it. Hold
okay,
on.
good. Okay.
Let me see if
Okay.
this is the answer. You ready? Is addiction typically somebody's coping mechanism for the alarm? So, for example, you reach for alcohol because it drowns out the alarm. You reach for porn or drugs or stress or whatever because
Overwork,
it
achievement. Yes.
got it. Okay, I got it. So, if somebody is struggling with addictive behavior, whether it is alcohol or cigarettes or vaping or it is any of that stuff, you are more than likely not addressing the root issue, which is the anxiety and alarm that's continuing to go off in the background.
Yeah. And on top of that,
Wow.
basically, the ego is very powerful. It doesn't want to let you go back into that. So the only way that you can feel love, connection, whatever, is alcohol, is codeine, is cocaine, whatever you're addicted to.
So
So,
wait, but you feel
yeah,
the connection to the alcohol or the codeine. That's what you're saying. So this is why I get confused with ego because I'm
sure,
like, I don't give a shit about the ego. Let's
sure,
talk like the alarm. And then what makes sense to me is that addiction mutes the alarm
totally.
and that you become bonded and connected to, for me it was stress, for my husband it was a daily weed habit,
Okay.
like for what that and that addiction is what's muting the alarm. This
Yeah,
is really cool. So
yeah.
where does mindset come in? Because you there is so much out there about mindset and mental wellness, and it's interesting because this conversation with you makes me desperate for a different word than mental health. Because
Sure.
even the word mental health makes me go neck up, makes me
Exactly.
think thoughts, makes me go to just what's going on in my mind. And what you've taught me today is a game changer because what you've taught us all is that no, 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 no. All mental health issues start in the body and they start with this kind of reaction that happens in your body to stored trauma or to a threat or to uncertainty. And then that signals our minds, and our minds then start spinning thoughts. And if we don't address this alarm system in our body, which has a purpose, which is there to protect us, which is supposed to agitate you, but we exacerbate it. We try to mute it. If we don't learn how to turn inward and heal all of this in our body and turn toward this alarm and soothe ourselves and love ourselves and give ourselves the reassurance and the support or whatever it is that we didn't get in childhood or what we need in that moment, that is actually the beginning of all healing. That's what I'm getting from you.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. So I would
Why do we
love to,
call it mental health then? Like, what isn't there? Can we come up with a different word that would actually signal you that when you're struggling with depression or you're struggling with anxiety or you're struggling with any like addiction issues, that it's not a mental health issue? It is a body something. Like, I don't even know how to describe this
well, it's
because
an
it's the
entire
exact
system.
opposite of the way that we think about things right
Yeah,
now.
it is the opposite. And I love, to come up with a better term than body set, but I think that's
Body
kind of
set?
what it
What is
is.
that? That feels like weightlifting.
Well, no, well, it's like mindset, body set. Like
Oh,
what is the
mindset,
place in
body.
your
Okay.
body? Can you regulate your body? Because if you regulate your body, your mind will get regulated. If you regulate your mind, your body might get regulated. So what I'm saying is that if you go in through the body, your body's much more likely to relax your mind than your mind is to relax your body. Because you can say, hey, relax, hey,
Oh,
calm
whoa,
down.
whoa, whoa. Did you guys hear that? That was a wake up call for me right there. You were just dropping freaking knowledge, Russ. Okay, hold on. I'm going to state this again. And now I have menopause brain, and so I've just forgotten what I said. You said something like your body, if you regulate your body, it will
Yeah.
regulate your mind. But if
It's
you
much more
regulate
effective.
your mind right, you say it because you're the one who said it.
Yeah, it's much more effective to regulate your body first, which will automatically regulate your mind, than to try and regulate your mind to regulate your body. Because your mind lies to you all the time. Your body never can.
Is this why exercising is such an effective thing to do when it
Partly,
comes to anxiety and focus?
partly, but there's something beyond exercise. There's something within the somatosensory cortex, or the part of the brain that controls our movement and our sensation. When we activate that, we start getting into the sense of the body and out of the rumination of the mind.
And
So
so by
that's one of the,
activating that, is that what you're saying? You can activate that part by doing the exercises you've already talked about in terms of locating where the alarm is and then finding a neutral part in
yeah,
your body, breathing into it.
and
Do
just
you all
movement. Just that's why yoga is so effective because it brings you into your body. Anxiety at its root is really a mind body disconnect. right? We go up into our heads and we stay in our heads because we don't want to go down in our body, because that's where the pain is. So we don't want to go into feeling town down in our body. We want to stay up in our thoughts. And that's another addiction. So we get addicted to worry. And that's why it's so hard to treat anxiety just by trying to fix thoughts, because we're addicted to thinking already. We don't need any more thinking. We need a lot more feeling, but we don't want to feel because that's where the frickin' pain is.
Wow. So I've gotten a couple huge things
Okay.
from this. That first of all anxiety results from a separation
Of some kind.
anxiety that has some kind of separation experience or feeling separate from other in
And
childhood
self. And self.
and self. But what you just said too was really interesting, which is our response to that alarm or that feeling of being separate from self or separate from others or attacked by others or whatever, is that we actually do separate from ourselves. Anxiety and the alarm system, the way that most of us respond to it is to separate from our bodies, go up in our heads. And the way to quiet the alarm and ultimately turn it off is to come back and join in with yourself and come back to where the alarm is sounding off in your body, and then find a neutral or safe space in your body where you can draw your attention and breathe into back and forth and back and forth. And that when you quiet the alarm and when you go toward it and soothe your own body, that is the step that you need to take if you want to heal this. And that the thinking is part of the toolkit. Like, what would you recommend as some sentence that we could say if we're trying the tools, we go into our body, we're soothing ourselves? Is there something that people could say or repeat to themselves that you find is effective with the more neck down approach?
Absolutely. So
What
it's
do you say?
basically this. Am I safe in this moment? Am I safe in this moment? I know I've got a presentation to do on Friday. I know I've got a big tax bill. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. My mom is sick. But am I safe in this moment?
Why a question? Because I like saying I am safe.
You could do
I
it both. You
am
could do it both
okay.
ways. I find that people with anxiety, though, this is the thing about saying I love you in the mirror, is that people don't allow that in. The reason why you're anxious in the first place is because you block love. So when you say I
Whoa,
love you,
whoa, 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 whoa. The
yeah,
reason why you're anxious is because you block love?
for yourself, yes.
What?
You're separated from yourself. That's exactly what it comes down to. That's what anxiety or alarm really is. It's a separation. And this is what I do. This is my little, we didn't get into my little intuitive thing here,
We're
but
going to in a minute. Hold on.
okay.
We save the best for last, but hold on. Okay. Keep talking about the fact that when you have this alarm going off,
Yeah.
you are blocking. Like, just say it again.
Well,
I'm processing, hyper
feels-
processing now. I'm just like, oh my God, I think I got it. I think I got it. I think I got it. That literally your alarm is asking for love and reinsurance.
Absolutely.
And when you go into your head, you block yourself from receiving it.
Yes.
When you
And you
go
block
into your
that child.
body and you breathe into the alarm and soothe yourself, you are actually giving yourself love.
Yes.
Holy shit.
And a lot of people with anxiety just they're uncomfortable with love in the first place. I'll give you a very quick example from my own life. So my dad, before I was 10 years old, was this wonderful guy. Like he was so connected to me and nurturing, taught me how to hit a ball, play chess, all this kind of stuff. Very, very connected to him. And I loved him greatly. And then as I got to be a young teen and his schizophrenia got worse and worse and worse, and he became suicidal and a bunch of other things, I withdrew from him because to see him in horrible depression was just too painful for me. So I blocked my love for him because it was just too painful to feel it. And that you can't block love from a parent without blocking love on some level to everyone. So there's a reason why I've been married 3 times. So this is one of the things. So when you find the blocks that you have to loving yourself, this is how you heal. And this is basically my little intuitive gift, is I can tell people where their blocks are to loving themselves. And then when you remove those blocks, the anxiety, the alarm just kind of fades away. So this is really going at the root cause protocol as opposed to just trying to make you think better.
Wow. So how do you help people find that place where they've blocked love?
Well, I go through their body, you know, like what I believe, the short version of what I believe happens to you is as a child, you experience an overwhelming stress. It's too much for your conscious mind to handle, so you stuff it down. Freud would call it repression. You stuff it into the unconscious. And the body keeps the score, just like Bessel van der Kolk says. So because the body is a representation of the unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind is where these old, damaging programs are stored, they'll show up in the body. So I will find in your body where you feel that alarm and reverse engineer it to get into the same room with those unconscious programs, and then I can change them.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I think my biggest takeaway, and I keep saying this because clearly every 10 minutes I have a life-changing takeaway from this conversation, but my biggest takeaway is the connection between the alarm that goes off and the love that you're not allowing yourself to receive.
Totally.
And that it's beautiful to think that loving yourself is the way you cure anxiety. And what a beautiful thing. And it reminds me of something pretty amazing that my son Oakley shared with me. I said to him the other day, I was like, dude, one of the things I love about you is that you, more than almost anybody I have ever met, are just so comfortable with yourself. Like you really seem to like yourself. And now, I should preface this by saying that, this is a kid that really struggled. 3 different schools before he was done with 8th grade, severe dyslexia, got so severely bullied at a camp that we had to pull him out of it. And the director wrote a long letter apologizing for everything. Like this kid has been through the ringer. Mm. And he said to me, well, Mom, he said, I realized and he said, this happened during quarantine. During quarantine, when I got to hang out with you and Dad and, my 2 older sisters, all 4 people who love me, I just started to realize just because other people pick on me or hate me doesn't mean I have to hate myself. Like I could actually just like myself. Like I could really just allow myself to love myself. And I got to be honest with you, from that moment, I can really almost pinpoint that during the pandemic, like this kid's chronic anxiety was gone. He developed this very positive attitude, and it all began from this insight around, hey, if the world is not giving me the acceptance and the love that we all are seeking, maybe I can just give it to myself.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I never thought about meeting the alarm of anxiety with acts of self-love.
Yeah. And that's, it's counterintuitive on some level, because when you're anxious, you don't feel loving. Basically your social engagement system is shut off. You're in survival mode. So when you're in survival mode and survival physiology, you go into the emotional part of your brain, which is, evolutionarily programmed to look for threat. And if there's no threat in your environment, if you're just lying there in bed with the sheets up to your neck, you will find threat because you can make it with your big prefrontal cortex. You can make worries.
Well, not anymore, because we now know that the second you feel the alarm go off, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you do not go upstairs, you go downstairs.
Yep.
You go downstairs.
Yep.
Now, so I love to leave people in action. Obviously, everybody. There will be links not only to Russ's book, Anxiety RX. There will be links to his social media accounts. You will find all kinds of resources in the show notes. But I want to leave people in action.
Sure.
So, this is one of those incredible conversations that really changes how somebody thinks about a massively overwhelming topic like anxiety and mental health. Now what I want to do is leave people in action with one simple new practice or habit that I want everyone to try every day for the next 7 days. And what is the exercise that you want each one of us to practice for the next 7 days so that we can start to use the tools that you have been researching and changing lives with? What's the one thing you want us to do?
Can I do two
Yes,
ones?
as
Okay.
long as it doesn't involve the ego.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Oh, okay. Well, that's it. That's the end of that. All right. So the first thing that I would say is what I said earlier. Am I safe in this moment? Or I am safe in this moment? Because this moment is all we ever have, right? The thing about anxiety is it always projects you into the future. So if you bring yourself back to the moment, and this has worked for me. It saved my ass a number of times in the middle of the night when all my defenses are down and I think the world is horrible.
Okay.
I am safe in this moment. I am safe, and really feel it too. Like I am safe in this moment.
Is there anything we should do with our hands or with our, do you want us to close our eyes? Do you want us to,
You can do the high five your heart if you want.
okay, which is putting your heart right in the center of your chest. Take a deep breath. I'm safe.
If you
I'm safe.
find, yeah,
Okay. What
yeah.
else could you do?
If you find your alarm, if you know where your alarm is, if you know, track the alarm. When you feel anxious, go into your body and say, where am I feeling this? Is this in my belly? Is this in my chest? Is it in my throat? Put your hand over the place where you feel your alarm
Okay.
and breathe into that.
Okay.
There is a little thing too that I've kind of taken from Andrew Huberman about the physiological sigh. Physiological sigh is something that humans do, and animals do it too, to calm themselves. And it's usually one quick sniff through your nose, and then another one, and then a long, slow breath out through your mouth. Now, with my anxiety people, I modify that. So basically, this is the process that I do when I get into alarm. Is I take 3 breaths through my nose really quickly. At the top, I hold it for about 3 to 5 seconds, which shows me that I'm in actually controlling my breath. My breath isn't controlling me. Then I close my teeth and I breathe out through my teeth and make a hissing sound like.
All right, I'm going to try this. Ready?
And as I do that, I imagine a tire that's overinflated just deflating in front of me. That's my mental image.
All right, let me try this. Hold on a second. We're going to all do I think we should do this one. We're going to do 2. So everybody, number 1 is 1 time a day if you notice an alarm in your body. And that could be tension, it could be frustration, it could be anger, it could be anxiety, it could be that worry's starting to grip you. I want you to find where that alarm is. I want you to put your hand where the alarm is, and I want you to breathe into it, okay? And then you can add, I'm safe in this moment. So that's number 1 that you're going to practice. Anytime you feel the gripping, the tension, the frustration, the overwhelm, the alarm is signaling. Remember, that's an alarm asking for love.
Yep.
And you're the one that is going to provide the love and reassurance that you need. So that's number 1. The second one is, let's try this breathing thing. Okay, and if you want to see it, go to our YouTube channel because we have video episodes uncut of these podcast interviews that are amazing because they're a lot longer and they're behind the scenes. But you should see Russ's face when he does it. He looks like he's about to rage on somebody, and he's actually deflating like a tire and taking control of things. And now I'm going to look completely ridiculous as I breathe in 3 times and then I clench my teeth and hiss out like a tire. Ready?
Okay, let me do it first
Okay.
again because
Okay.
there's a few parts to it. So the first
Okay.
thing is 3 breaths in through your nose. So quickly. And then at the top of that, you hold your breath for about 3 to 5 seconds. And then you close your teeth. And as you exhale, slowly exhale, you make a hissing sound. And as you make that hissing sound, you imagine a tire deflating.
Okay, I'm going to do this. You ready?
Ready?
Okay.
And I
Whoa.
want you to elongate that. So the whole thing about the physiological sigh is that you're creating a long exhale. That's what really relaxes us, is the long exhale. So when people say take a deep breath, really what you need to do is just take a long exhale. So again, it's like 3 breaths in, hold, and then.
I'm going to try it again. See if I
So
can go
really
longer.
fill your lungs up, Mel. Like
Okay.
really fill them up.
Okay, here we go. Wow. What's interesting about that is it requires so much focus that you can't really think about anything else.
Totally. That's one of the other things that it takes you off your worries. Exactly.
And you do feel this sort of relaxing and collapsing feeling inside you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you
Okay.
relax your shoulders, relax your jaw. Like there's stuff to it. I mean, I'll make like a YouTube video about this or whatever, or I'll put it on my Instagram. But
Awesome.
basically, it's really about expanding your lungs, because when you expand your lungs, you send a message up to your brain that you're okay. Because when you
Hmm.
get stressed, the stress starts breathing you. You aren't breathing for yourself. The stress will start breathing you. So it's really important that you do the 3 breaths in, hold, and then breathe out with it, and really elongate that exhale. So the more breath you take in when with the sniffs, the easier it is to have that nice long exhale.
Wow. Well, thank you
Of
so
course,
much for my
anytime.
personal therapy session. For
Anytime.
everybody listening, I hope you got a lot out of it. This has been a game changer. The alarm love connection is blowing my freaking mind. It's going to change instantaneously how I approach moments of alarm in myself or the people around me. I think it's going to bring a greater level of compassion. And for sure, you made me smarter today. And so I feel more equipped to really help myself and help other people that I deeply care about through these moments where life knocks you down or the fear takes over. And I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel, and thank you. Like, the 5 second rule and the high five habit, those are books that I've listened to over the last year, and I love them. I think that they're really something that helps me. And then when I get helped, I am able to sort of, turn my little brain on and help other people as well. So
Oh,
it's a ripple effect, Mel. You help me, I help you.
awesome. Awesome. All right. We're going to have you back.
Thank
Thank
you. Anytime.
you. Dr. Kennedy in the house, people. Holy cow. So, full disclosure, I had never talked to that guy ever. Like, I just knew from his Instagram account that he had knowledge to share, and that even though he and I agree on so many things, like I too have called anxiety an alarm for the last 5 years. I understand somatic therapy. I have experienced the power of it. I teach it. It's incorporated in all the work that I'm doing. However, I had never heard that all anxiety is the result from separation as a child. Wow. But the thing that really blew my mind is understanding that this is really about love and loving yourself. That when that alarm goes off in your body and you feel the grip or the tension or the overwhelm, that alarm is not a signal to run away or to numb or to be scared. It's actually an alarm from a part of you that needs reassurance and love right now. That's it. And no one else is going to come and give that to you. And one of the most beautiful things about hearing from Dr. Kennedy is that you have within you the power to love and soothe yourself. And like any skill or any muscle or any habit, it gets easier and easier and easier the more you practice it. And so I really mean it when I say I want you to practice what we talked about for the next 7 days. In particular, I want you to pay attention to when that alarm sounds in your own body this week. And again, it doesn't have to feel like the rattled tidal wave that I feel in the mornings. It might feel more like anger gripping you, or frustration overtaking you, or perfectionism getting its stranglehold. Anytime that you start to feel that grip, that's the alarm. And then you're just going to notice it. And instead of freaking out or reaching for numbing it, or don't go up into your thoughts, I want you to go to where the alarm is. I want you to put your hands there. I want you to take a deep breath. That's all I want you to do this week. You have within you the ability to turn toward this thing and to give yourself exactly what that alarm is trying to get from you. That alarm is designed to agitate you because the stress of your life demands more love from you. It demands more compassion. And this is an opportunity for you to turn toward yourself, to create a deeper connection with yourself, and to feel more empowered to help people around you that are also struggling. I cannot wait to hear your comments and your thoughts about this episode. Please, please share this with anybody that you think would benefit from hearing this life-changing information. Remember, it comes down to loving yourself. That's what this is about. That was the huge takeaway for me. That holy cow, I have spent 50 years trying to run away from the fact that all I needed was more love for myself. I hope that in some small way, this will save you the heartache that I caused myself for those 50 years, now that you have the understanding and tools that I didn't have until now. Alrighty, thank you for being here. And, in case nobody else tells you today, I want to tell you that I love you, I believe in you and your ability to create a better life for yourself. And I love being a part of your life with the Mel Robbins podcast. Alrighty, till next time. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you, so make sure you subscribe. Mwah.